Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. Had a bit of a break since our last meeting in July, the beginning. Everybody's gone away and came back, and it's nice to see everybody again. Thomas seems to be in hiding. I really see him very rarely, so it's good to see you. Sorry to call you out like that. Anyways, welcome to our committee of the whole meeting of August 16th, 2022. If I could have, there are no amendments to the agenda at this time, so if I could have a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Councilor.
That?
Thank you, Councilor Paquette. Any questions?
No.
All in favor? Carried. Next on the agenda is to adopt the minutes from the regular council meeting of July 5th, 2022.
Make a motion to adopt the minutes from July 5th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilor Burtis and Councilor Hanchar. Any questions or comments?
Not for me.
Minutes.
Did we go ahead and order, we did order the flusher, the truck? So I know I read them.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Motion to pay the open payables in the amount of $141,770.77.
I'll make a motion to pay the open payables.
Thank you, Councilor Hanchar.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilor Paquette. Any questions?
Not for me.
So Yukon Gardens, that was 6612, that was our flowers, right?
That's correct.
What is Soft Choice 6607?
That's the licensing for our computer software.
Anything else? All in favor? Carried. Next on the agenda, we have a public hearing for the zoning amendment, lot one, block 58 in Watson Lake here. For everybody's reference, that's the old Park-Helium building on 8th Street. With that, can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you, Councilor Hanchar.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilor Burtis.
Your worship, for the record, there was no written submissions for the public hearing.
Thank you. CAO Lockwood.
The public hearing just has to do with when people have contest that this was actually happening for some reason.
Opportunity to speak on it.
Yeah, so it could be contest or speak in favor,
Okay,
either way.
The only thing that I've heard in Watson Lake is there's those two lots are zoned light industrial or industrial.
No.
There's the Parhelion, but there's another one behind it. And that lot owner who will also have to go through the same process as requested. I know that they just said that they would like to see their lot do the same rather than have like one industrial lot in the middle of town. Serving no purpose.
Are they going to?
and who owns that lot?
Ron Paint Show. And Paul Allard.
That's the one across the street for them.
Yeah, they were asking about whether or not they could get their lot switched over. I was like, well, I'm pretty sure you could. I inquired and they just have to go through the same process. And that's all.
Exactly.
And yeah, your worship, those lots are currently zoned commercial local.
Not industrial.
No, sorry. That's I.
But also, while we're doing a zoning bylaw and doing that zoning map, could probably fall into that. If you ask them to request, we can probably put that in at the same time.
Get the paperwork started.
That makes sense for sure.
I'll follow up on that.
Okay, so we are in a public hearing, so I'll just run through the Zoom attendees if they have any questions or comments. Chris from Food Security, do you have anything to comment on zoning amendment happening on 8th Street?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Dana?
Yes.
Do you have any questions regarding the zoning amendment?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Have you plugged?
And Patty McLeod, do you have any questions regarding the zoning amendment?
No, I don't. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we will motion to close the open hearing.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councilor Turner and Councilor Paquette. Any more questions or comments?
No.
All in favor? Carried. All right. Moving right along. We have as a delegation today, Chris Pinkerton from the Food Network Yukon. Welcome, Chris. Hi there.
Hi there. Is everyone able to hear me?
Yeah, hi.
Excellent. Is screen sharing enabled?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Perfect. Let me just get this going here. Okay. Thank you and good evening. I'd like to thank the mayor and council for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I'm the coordinator of the Yukon Energy Food Security Network, and I'm here today to speak to you about local food security as well as the Watson Lake Community Food Hub project. My name is Christopher Pinkerton, and I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you today from the traditional territories of the Kwamlundun First Nation and the Tonquichan Council. Here on this slide is just a small bit about myself. I grew up in Ontario and got my degree at Laurentian University before eventually moving to the Yukon with my family. In 2021, I've had the honor, or since 2021, I've had the honor to take on the role of Food Security Network Coordinator, and I've spent the better part of the past 2 years helping address Yukon food security. So why are we talking about food security here and today? First, as you can see here, and hopefully hear from my voice, I'm incredibly excited about the work that's been happening across the Yukon. I'm here to share some information about the network, the food hub, and to thank you for the work that you've already done, and of course, to talk about local food security. These days, food security has been a big conversation nationwide. We've got the pandemic, climate change, the war in Ukraine, all having major impacts on inflation, as well as the cost and availability of our food. Food security is something we've been talking about in the Yukon for years, but these factors are bringing the issue into the spotlight like never before. So just before we get too far, a couple of really quick definitions, just so we're all talking from the same page. Food security is when all people at all times have access to sufficient, safe, and nutritious food to maintain a healthy and active life. Conversely, food insecurity is when one or more of those items are lacking. Food sovereignty is the rights of peoples, communities, and nations to define their own agricultural, labor, hunting, fishing, and land policies, which are ecologically, socially, spiritually, economically, and culturally appropriate to their unique circumstances. When we talk about food banks, we're usually referring to nonprofit or charitable organizations that collect donated food and distribute it to people in need. And we're also normally talking about a monthly engagement. So you come in once a month, you get your food, and we'll see you next month. When we talk about community food hubs, we're talking about promoting common values such as the right to adequate access to healthy and culturally appropriate food, building community through food, and strengthening food systems through the work. So common characteristics can include kitchens, storage space, growing space for programming, education, partnerships, community food sharing, as well as governance. I'd like to thank this mayor and council for your work on food security to date. Your written letter of support for the Food Hub project was amazing. Your agreement for the food bank to operate out of the old fire hall for the past few years while the firefighters moved to their location has been a huge help. You've supported the community garden project, and I'd like to give an extra thank you to those of you who've joined the discussion or participated in our food security meetings. Food security is not something that we're going to be able to fix with a single magic bullet. It's going to take a lot of people working across the territory. So one of the things we've been talking about lately, so here we go. I've mentioned the Food Security Network at our meetings here in Watson Lake and through the Yukon communities. So I'd like to take just a moment to share some of the work we've been doing. The Yukon Energy Food Security Network began in 2021, and it was initiated through a partnership between Yukon Energy, Yukon Anti-Poverty Coalition, Food Bank Society of Whitehorse, and United Way Yukon. We're focused on addressing food insecurity in the Yukon by developing collaborative community food security networks and community food hubs. In our first year, we helped develop groups in the communities of Carmax, Haines Junction, Mayo, and we folded in the Whitehorse group. Since this past April, we've started our second year. We've begun meetings here in Watson Lake and initiated discussions in Pelly Crossing. We're trying to seek out and work with community groups and champions to offer support and share information whenever and wherever we can. So talking about local food security, one of the big things we've been talking about lately are the community food insecurity rates. You may have seen the proof research paper from University of Toronto a few years ago. They worked with StatsCan to determine approximate rates of household food insecurity across Canada. Most of the country is measured at a rate of approximately 12% people being mild, moderately, or severely food insecure. Here in the Yukon, we're the third highest food insecurity in Canada, behind the other two territories at a rate of approximately 17% of our population is food insecure. However, if we go deeper than that, that 17% is really heavily affected by the population of the capital city Whitehorse. And if we start looking at the surrounding communities individually, we start seeing an entirely different picture here in the Yukon. According to some work that's being done by Dr. Sarah McPhee-Knowles at Yukon University, in 2016, the town of Watson Lake had a by-income food insecurity rate of 27%. That's the highest in the territory. Just to clarify, the date of the 2016 is based on Statistics Canada's numbers that have been released, calculating income, cost of food, location, to identify the approximate numbers of people being affected. If we put it into a slightly more current perspective, in 2021, the population of Watson Lake was just over 1,500 people. On average, the Whitehorse Food Bank is sending emergency food hampers to support approximately 300 people. So that's just under 20% of Watson Lake is identifying as food insecure every month. Just so it's not all doom and gloom, a couple of the other conversations that have been taking place in the food security group, we've talked about pet and animal feed, what the costs and availability are locally versus coming in from Whitehorse, and what we can maybe do to start supporting local options for farmers and pet owners. We've also talked about food waste programs, what they could look like in reasonable and responsible ways, for example, not attracting wildlife. And we've got into discussions about what makes a community garden and how we can support and expand on what exists already. And of course, we're talking about the Food Hub project. Part of my reason for speaking to you today is that food hubs are kind of a novel concept across North America right now. And in our meetings, we've talked about a few myths and misconceptions that have come up. And I thought maybe I could share a couple of them really quick. So as you can see first, there's the myth that food banks are sinkholes for government money. In reality, most food banks receive very little government or municipal money. Instead, they rely entirely or almost entirely on private donations and fundraising. As a relevant local example, the Whitehorse Food Bank receives zero municipal or territorial funding. Our second myth is that food banks can actually increase crime. In fact, according to research from Clemson University, children who often go hungry have a greater risk of developing impulse control problems and engaging in violence and crime. Their results show that a 1% increase in food insecurity tends to lead to a violent crime rate of approximately 12%, holding other predictors in place. The impact that food security has on crime rates also changes based on the income level and population of the area. I do want to add the Clemson University and these particular numbers on this myth come from the United States, just because this research hasn't been done in Canada. Our third and final myth for tonight, food banks hurt suppliers. In fact, food banks are an important, often overlooked part of the food supply chain. Research shows that donating perishable food that's past its prime allows food chains to maintain better looking items on a shelf resulting in higher prices and larger markups than would otherwise be the case. Removing low quality, unsaleable products from the shelf and handing it off to food banks also directly offsets waste removal costs, which can be high. This remove and replace effect offers dual benefits of reducing handling and outdating costs of degrading produce and increasing the average quality of food that remains on shelf. Higher quality means higher prices. So why are we talking about food hubs as opposed to food banks? Food hubs are actually a model of food system that we've been seeing gaining traction across Canada and North America and the Yukon as well. As I said before, food banks end their service at the door, while food hubs are focused on the social supports and the other connections and factors that are part of health and food security. The food hub isn't just focusing on emergency food, but food literacy, food preparation, storage, social connections, advocacy, and support for local food systems. Since we've had the pandemic and its associated challenges, the Whitehorse Food Bank has actually been looking to expand its satellite operation that's been in Watson Lake. And so far, community consultation has been saying that the food hub model has the most appeal. Some of the benefits around community food hubs that we've seen, when the food bank sends food to communities, they have to factor in shipping time, safe food handling, availability of storage, coordination on shipping. Because of this, the food bank can only send dry, non-perishable, shelf-stable foods in their hampers. So if there were a central location to receive and build hampers, we can have local relationships with producers and suppliers and include items such as fresh produce, dairy, meat, or eggs. And the relationships with these growers, producers, distributors can have additional opportunities for those savings on disposal and food waste costs. Finally, food hubs in other jurisdictions have been successful in facilitating collaboration and coordination between existing food organizations, as well as building community through the physical and organizational spaces. It may actually interest you to know that other Yukon communities, Whitehorse, Carmacks, and Mayo, as some specific examples, are all looking at developing their own community food hubs. As a final note on food hubs, once they're operational and staffed, they can also offer employment opportunities where there may be few current options existing. That's all I have for this evening. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you today. I welcome any questions or follow-up discussions. And I'd also like to add that if you wish to discuss some of these points in greater detail, Dr. Sarah McPhee-Knowles, who I referenced earlier, will be in Watson Lake on August 26th and would be available to have meetings or in-person discussions about food security studies, the food hub, or the food bank. Thank you again.
Great, thank you, Chris. Great presentation. We definitely value your efforts in Watson Lake. Those numbers seem staggering. If 300 people are in that position, that's awful. You know, we got to make sure that that's not actually the case, and hopefully that we can help to fix that. Is there any questions from council? No? Pretty straightforward. Councilor Paquette? Good. Good. So, yeah, again, thank you very much, Chris. You know, I don't know if you were here for the beginning. This is our first meeting back for a while, so we got a huge agenda, but we definitely appreciate your presentation and wish you all the best of luck here in Watson Lake. No, we're always available.
Thank you very much.
We're always available if you're looking for other sources for, you know, any kind of anything. Just don't hesitate to reach out and let us know what
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the time. Our Food Network meetings are on the last Wednesday of every month. If you haven't been getting invitations, please reach out and I will happily extend them to you. Okay. Have a great evening and thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we'll just keep moving along here. So under our correspondence, we have a letter from Minister Stryker, a notification of engagement for geothermal resources and legislation. He's basically telling us what the potential is in the Yukon and that he's seeking input from all municipalities. So in the letter, he's discussed that the engagement went from June of 2022 to August 16th, but that has been extended till September. So if anybody is interested in engaging with Minister Stryker on this, let us know and we'll reach out to make sure you can get that information sent to her. Good enough?
Sounds good.
Good, everybody? Okay. Next on the agenda, we have CAO Lockwood's CAO report. Please, thank you.
Welcome back. As
Okay.
you can see, we got some catch up to do. We had a good break. So yeah, no, things are, even though we haven't had meetings, things have been progressing. It's been a busy summer at the Northern Lights Center. Numbers have been really high for visitor viewing and stop-ins. We did have Spitz up in town last week and went through the whole projection system and did some training. They're doing a report up on the condition of the projection system in there, but they've told us that if there's anything goes wrong, anything else further goes wrong with the system, it's dead, as they can't get replacement parts for it. But I did have a very successful meeting with Canor, YG Dev Tourism, and Tiffany just finished filling in an application, and they roughly committed to about $630,000 to replace the projection system with the Northern Lights.
Amazing.
So, which was in our budget, that was something that we had a CDF application for. ECDev has come up with $100,000 and about 430 TIF from Canor, I believe was the number, somewhere in there, but the Canor number was sort of fluid. That's just what they blocked off for now. So Tiffany sent them the preliminary budget, but Canor's big thing isn't tourism. Their big thing is community input development. So as part of our budget, they wanted to know other things that we're doing at the Northern Lights Center. Like, we fixed the roof for $130,000. We're just redoing the HVAC system in there. We're changing the fuel tank. All those things had to be fed into that application. So we're hopefully they're in their application said some stuff that retroactive is possible. So we're hoping that we can leverage more than the 430 out of them and trying to take advantage of that because, the building's 25 years old. It's starting to show some signs of age, like the carpet in the theater, some of the chairs. So when Spitz was here, we had him redo the quote for replacing the system. And it's roughly the same. It's, of course, computers and everything gone up a bit, but we're still waiting on the final draft. There's other issues is like the sound system is another thing that's 25 years old and all that feeds into it. But the dome is working right now. It is very nice to see. Almost got dizzy and when I was standing in there when they were moving from screen to screen with the Northern Lights shooting over your head and the stars going around and everything spinning. So it was quite unique. Some of our staff really took to the training. Hopefully we can retain some of that knowledge going forward and put it to use. But if everything flows right, we should have the whole new system in for next spring before we open. If the stars align.
And you need some staff.
Yeah, and staffing. So, but the part about the new system, it's fully automated with full internet, so we can actually instead of we can download shows and move share stuff in between other planetariums, which is very handy. It's really a neat thing, and they actually showed our staff how to stitch pictures together into making our own show. And the technician was here. It's the same technician that was here in 2009 or 10. And he had actually taken a panoramic standing on the lawn at the Northern Lights Center. And he stitched it together and he had it on the dome. So you just turned and you will look the whole panoramic around the dome, which kind of neat.
Wow.
To see the difference in the businesses and the buildings that have changed in that time period.
Wow.
So times have really changed. So we're moving ahead there. Staffing's a struggle. We lost a staff member from the Northern Lights today, and then we have holidays coming up. So we're gonna really take a close look at scheduling because our students are going back to school in a couple of weeks as well. And, you know, originally we committed to try to keep it open until the end of September, but that might have to be modified. So I'm just forewarning you now that you might see notices going out sooner, but if I don't have staff, I can't operate it. And we'll be heading into September when the tourist numbers are declining. But we're struggling for staff at every location and every business I talk to in town is in the same boat. So I'm not sure what the answer is, but just giving you a heads up about that. The roof repairs at the rec center started today. They were on the roof before 6 given and they hope to have it all sealed in watertight by Sunday night. They hope to have, today they were aiming for about 5,000 square feet of roofing. So they're moving. And he pointed out a couple of different things that he noticed when they got on the roof, like there should be a couple of extra roof drains where the puddling areas are. So I approved them to go in, just because if we're gonna fix it, let's fix it. So we're dealing with that. And staffing, or the person I offered the fire chief's job had some family emergency and had to remove his name from accepting the position. So I we re-advertised the fire chief's position. It closed last Thursday at 4 again. We received 3 applicants, so we have interviews slated for this Thursday. So hopefully by Friday or probably next Monday, we'll be in a better spot to know where we are, because depending on the candidate and reference checks and stuff, hopefully I'll be in a position to advertise or offer that position. So for those of you who've been the receivers of lots of complaints about the White Lake Trail and motorized vehicles, I'm happy to announce that our staff has got the Mid Lake Trail open and upgraded, and signage going up to direct motorized vehicles around from Peters Trailer Park around to Francis Avenue. You slow that down. And then the other thing we're doing is boxing in with more boulders, the trail to block off access. So hopefully that will help. Tiffany put out on our social media and our website information about the trail and upcoming bylaw enforcement. Bylaws been very busy, issuing cleanup orders and catching dogs and more dogs, and a lot of repeat offenders. But I would say she's averaging 3 to 5 dogs a week. Some weeks she's been up to 7, and she'll just get rid of a couple and catch a couple more. But the numbers of dog complaints coming into the municipality is significantly dropped. And the nice part is that she's working a flexible work schedule. So some days she might start at 6, and other days she might not start till 4 in the afternoon and work till midnight. So it's really words on the street that you never know when you're going to see the bylaw trucks. So and it's generated a lot of revenue by her catching dogs. So I think it was long overdue. And and she's completed all her training on maintenance, bylaws, bylaw enforcement, and on development permits and training. So comments from the trainers have been very positive as to her capabilities and her learning and her note taking. All the files are very well documented. So that's nice to see. And the 2 trainers have left their personal cell numbers, and if she has a question on anything, she just phones them. So, which is cool. The other thing we started doing is brushing the ditches up in the industrial area. So that's proceeding, and work with the landfill, and yeah, just covering up holidays. So things are moving, but I'm sure in open forum stuff will come forward.
Okay. Yep. That's great.
Thanks.
I too have noticed the bylaw in several capacities, and I believe she is doing a great job. Saw her on Sunday evening drive by, uniformed up. Calling my dogs out of the yard. That's loud, but whatever. But yeah, no, she's doing a great job. Even as her development officer role. She's doing a good job. Okay, well, thank you, CAO Lockwood. We'll just carry on because we got a few more admin reports to go through here. Gonna entail a lot of readings, so. Number 8 on the agenda is the admin report for the well rebuild capital funding. The purpose of this is to seek council's approval of capital budget spending. Financial implications, Precision's quote is $108,297.40 plus GST. Council approved $105,000 in the capital budget. The town water well number 4 was rebuilt in the fall of 2015. At the same time, well number 5 was drilled and commissioned. These 2 wells supply all the water to the water treatment plant for distribution to the town. It has come to our attention that the normal life cycle of well pumps is 8,000 hours of operation. Currently, both well pumps have over 10,000 hours of operation. This puts us at risk of pump failure. We would be able to provide water supply at a reduced rate if a pump failed, but would have to impose restrictions until emergency repair could be completed. Due to the time to organize well drilling rig, drilling rig and replacement pump could take weeks. If both well pumps failed, we would only be able to supply water to the community for approximately 3 days. Utilities would have 2 pumps. Utilities will have the 2 pumps rebuilt and retained as spares, which can be reinstalled when the new pumps reach their life expectancy, and we will continue to do this until the pumps are no longer rebuildable. Operations reach out to well servicing companies to determine who had the qualifications to complete the work. It was determined that Precision Service and Pumps and Cathay Water Resources could complete the work as required. A scope of work was established and both companies provided quotes to the town. Precision submitted a quote of $108,297.40 plus GST. Cathay submitted a quote of $120,494 plus GST. Precision was the company that originally drilled well number 5 and installed pumps in both wells. They have the technical information on the wells and know the product that they installed. The recommendation from administration is to approve the quote received from Precision Services and Pumps Incorporated. Please have a motion from council or any questions or comments or decisions.
I just have one little question. Where it says that utilities will have the 2 old pumps rebuilt and retained as spares. And then that would continue to happen until they're no longer rebuildable. So they would become new again, basically. Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Then the new ones time out, then they get rebuilt, we put the old ones back in and so on and so forth until you can no longer do that. Is that?
Yes, or
means-
until we can no longer get parts to rebuild them.
Okay,
And is that rebuild included in the price? Or is-
No, it isn't.
No.
That is not, your worship. It is a price they can't quote on because they don't know what they'd have to replace in the pumps when they rebuild them.
And it would be the same group rebuilding them, correct? The same?
They would go back to the company that built them.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
okay.
So in this case, it would be Ross. Go back to their service facility, wherever it is in Canada.
And we're getting the same kind of pumps.
We spec the identical pump that was installed. It's still available as a common pump, and that's what we spec. We took the tender specs from when the wells were drilled and put that back.
Okay. Where, just curious, like, where is the extra $4,300 coming from? Just, make up somewhere else or?
So, yeah, so, well, the difference is about
Yeah.
$3,000. So, yeah, we'll have it elsewhere in our capital budget.
Okay.
Where other prices will come in under.
Or there's something that at the end of the line, just say, maybe next year.
Yep, no, that's fine.
But focused on the stuff that needs to happen first. Sorry,
I'll make a motion that council approve the quote received from this Precision Service and Pumps for the replacement of the pumps and servicing of wells 4 and 5 for the amount of $108,297.40. Six GST.
I'll say.
Thank you, Councilor Hancher. Thank you, Councilor. Any more questions or comments? No more questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay. It's gonna carry on. Is that okay, Thomas?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, number 9. This is the property tax sale of 600 Liard Avenue. What was the name of the old owner of this? Kim? Tierman property. Purpose to dispose of 600 Liard Avenue property tax sale, financial implications. The property was seized under Property Tax Lien Act. The town reserves bid was $14,600. For background information, 600 Liard Avenue was seized under the Tax Lien Act for numerous years of outstanding taxes. The property was approved by for the sale by council. After approval was granted, the property was advertised for sale as per the town's policy. The deadline for bids closed at 3 p.m. on August 8th, with only one bid being received, the bid from Gordon Blair Sunby for $17,800. They plan to clean up the site and develop a single-family residence on the property. Their submission is above the reserve bid of $14,600, which was set by town council. The recommendation is to accept the bid from Gordon and Blair Sunby for $17,800. Any questions or comments, discussion?
I'm just glad that they're gonna build a residence on there, that's nice. They will have a place to stay.
That's what we need.
I'll make a motion that council approves the sale of 600 Liard Avenue to Gordon Blair Sunby for $17,800.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilor Hanchar. Thank you, Councilor Burtis. Any questions or comments?
No.
All in favor?
Oh, Tom's a question, sorry, do we have, is there a proposed date when this has to be finished, Ken?
No.
No, okay. All right,
All in favor?
Aye.
It's enough. Carried. Don't be opposed. You never know. Okay, number 10 on the list, propane supply tender. To approve the tendering of the propane supply service. Administration posted a tender for the supply of propane and propane tanks for 3-year term. The tender documents were provided to Superior Propane, Kettle Propane, Chieftain Energy, Borealis Fuels, and Logistics. Operations received only one quote, and it was from Borealis Fuels and Logistics, which was
74 cents.
compliant.
Compliant, you're
Compliant, yeah, I was struggling with that word, sorry. Compliant with tender specifications. The recommendation is to accept the quote of Borealis Fuels and Logistics. If there's any question, go ahead, Councilor Slinger.
I was just gonna make a motion to accept Borealis's tender bid.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Hanchar. Thank you, Councilor Slager. That is for the 3-year term, September 22nd to September
Is that new?
25
It's usually yearly, right? But 3-year.
annual.
why did you go 3 years? Was there a reason for that?
Yes, your worship, the reason we went from 3 years is because no other propane company other than Superior would bid on it, and there was complaints that the cost to go to a 1-year tender for anybody else was astronomical because they'd have to replace the tanks. Hence the reason that when we spoke to the other companies, they said if it was a 3-year tender, they would apply for it. Well, when we put it out for a 3-year tender, only one applied, and the one that had the 1-year contracts forever did not.
So I was just, as you mentioned that, I was just curious about the equipment, like the tanks and stuff. So like they'll obviously put all that stuff in, and they'll cover the cost of that. Is that right?
Yes.
And then if sometime in the future we decide to go with another company or whatever, they'll just take their tanks back kind of thing.
Yes, yeah, so on their tender document, it states Borealis will replace the previous supplier's tanks and return the previous suppliers and return to the previous supplier at no cost. No other miscellaneous fees. Price is a variable delivered price, not including carbon and GST. That was the issue in the past, was when we had Superior, we would get all these hidden charges, dangerous goods delivery, all stuff that added to the per liter cost. So that's why this year, when we put it out, we wanted an all-inclusive other than those taxes to be transparent. And I reached out to Superior because they've been our supplier forever to see why they didn't bid. And all I can get is an answering machine and a voicemail going to 1-800 number. So they can't even return the call. So
Get staffing crunches, just like everywhere.
it's unfortunate. They do have a base here in town. So, but Borealis is coming into town with like a hurricane. They're setting up everywhere right now. Last week, they had a couple semi-loads of tanks and they were establishing business and they were talking about setting up a bulk tank here in town.
And I do know that they have like technicians on hand for furnace installs, servicing, etc.
Yeah, and that's one thing that they commit, which we, Superior used to have technicians, but they would never, we could never get them to do anything. Borealis has told us that if any of our facilities or staff residents have that are on Borealis propane and need a service technician, then they will service for us. So I know they have 3 full-time service technicians now, and when I spoke to the manager, he said that they were in the process of hiring 3 more. So it's really interesting.
Good. Okay. Everybody's happy with that? Okay. All right, moving on to number 11. The admin report for Auburn Drive Road resurfacing. To the purpose to approve the tendering of Auburn Drive Road resurfacing work, council approved the $50,000 in the 2022 capital budget for the road resurfacing. Public Works staff was tasked with coming up a list of gravel roads in the municipality that require upgrading. As a result of this task, Auburn Drive was identified as the road meeting the highest priority for work to be completed. Auburn Drive was established prior to 1984 as an access road to the landfill and Casca Forest Resources mill site. Since that time, the road has received minimal attention other than grading and snow removal. The road essentially has no gravel base and is literally large rocks. It makes it hard to maintain. Public Works were originally scheduled to perform the work internally. However, we would need to rent a packer and extend a large number of hours of manpower to complete the project. It was decided to have Operation reach out to local contractors for quotes for them to complete the work. The scope of work is to provide a 4-inch lift on the road. Operations received 2 quotes, one from Northern Enviro Services and another from Ion Kachika. Northern Enviro quoted $39,000 and Ion Kachika quoted $27,441. Both quotes did not include GST. Being both quotes were well below the $50,000 budget, Operation asked both companies for an additional price to complete some extra ditching on Auburn Drive. Northern Enviro priced the extra ditching at $5,000 and Ion Kachika priced it at $2,500. By tendering this work out, it allows the municipality to free up our staff to complete other projects and save us money. The recommendation. There are 3 recommendations. Accept the quote from Ion Kachika Contracting to complete the road resurfacing and ditching for $29,941 is the preferred recommendation. Number 2 is accept the quote from Northern Enviro Services to complete the road resurfacing and ditching for $44,000. And number 3 is not accept either quote and have the work completed internally. Questions, comments, concern, discussion?
What does it cost to chip seal again? Park. Anyone know?
No, not off the top of my head, and it depends if the chip seal crew is in town. So,
Just take it in the future, that's all.
yeah, and it depends on, in the future, it depends on the base as well, right? If we want to do a chip seal, because of the amount of heavy trucks that go on that road.
Yeah.
It's something that truthfully, it would probably be easier and beneficial for the municipality to leave it as a gravel road and then just calcify it. And then that way we can maintain it and keep the dust down, which would be a more cost-effective way of spending our money on then chip sealing that road.
No, you're right, because big trucks turning all the time, it's gonna rip
It's
us.
just gonna rip it up.
You have the road to the dump?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, and the big trucks are going because they're removing stuff for recycling? That
Well,
was
and
part-
long garbage trucks and gravel trucks and.
NES's trucks.
Okay.
And then also the heavy trucks going into the Castle Forest Resources property as well.
You know, all their big equipment's going in there now too.
Yeah, right, we'll open that up. Okay. Okay, and so that's what I wondered, if it was gonna be just gravel or what it was gonna be on there. Yeah, gravel is easier to maintain for sure, cheaper too. But it's not bad, like, you guys have done enough work on it, it's not that bad, before it was really pothole, but the town's obviously done a lot of work on it, it's not as bad as it used to be, for
It's,
sure.
yeah, it's beating the life out of the graders and equipment trying to work on it. So,
Yeah, especially for big rocks, yeah.
I'm in favor of option one.
So let's do this.
The motion.
I'll
Council-
approve I'll make a motion that approve the quote received for Ryan Kachiki contract and complete the Auburn Drive Road resurfacing and ditching for $29,940.
Thank you,
I'll
Councillor.
second that. Oh, go ahead, go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Paquette.
Thank you.
All in favor? Carried. Okay. Number 12. Moving right along. Procurement policy review. To review the current procurement policies. For background, as requested by council, administration has started to review of bylaws and policies that are either outdated or conflicting. The review has determined that this current CAO bylaw and the tendering policy contradict each other and are out of date. Administration reviewed all the available CAO bylaws in the territory and discovered that Watson Lake has the only community that included purchasing in it. Administration reviewed newly developed procurement policies from Whitehorse and Dawson City, which are based on the same document, just simplified for Dawson City. The recommendation revised the CAO bylaw and the procurement policy, or no change to the bylaw or policy. And this is just so everybody knows, a motion to review. It is not the completion of a procurement policy or a CAO policy. It's just allowing admin to create those documents.
To make those policies match, don't they just have to change it from 20,000 to 25,000?
There's more than just that, though. There was a few items in those.
Yeah, so
policies that-
if you, I don't know if you want to get into this now, but that was my question. Like, can you tell us which, like, I did read both of them, but they're, it's like a lot. Which items specifically are contradictory?
well, there's this, the spending thing was some, and then we have conflicting because we have the tendering policy, but then there was also a purchasing policy, which I can't find if it's actually been repealed in the municipal documents. So it would just be nice to streamline, when you look at the Dawson City's procurement policy, it actually lays it out, so it's, if I'm not in this chair, it's very clear as to the steps that must be taken, so that it's very transparent. It sets it out, so there's no ambiguity in anything. It lays out the type of documents that must be used and the steps that must be gone through. And, we've always talked about local preference and all this stuff. And procurement is something the council's spoke about for the last 2 terms.
Absolutely.
So hence the reason that this came to the forefront, it needs to be updated. So why not streamline the CAO bylaw, make one bylaw, like just a bylaw on the authorities of the CAO. And then put purchasing and tendering
Separate.
and all that into a separate and delegation authorities into a separate document that's very clear. The nice part is that being this document's based off of, or Dawson's document is based off of Whitehorse's. Whitehorse has been through full legal review, and it was just dumbing down for smaller municipalities for Dawson City. So I've been through the document. It is wordy, like
But it's also very clear.
It's very clear.
Yeah.
There's no guessing as to what my staff can do, and this is your limits.
Mhm.
And the thing is, since the original bylaws were done, like the CEO bylaw and these bylaws, spending has really changed. So, you know, do we really need to hold up work for 2 weeks or a month over something that's under $50,000,
That's what it is.
right? You know, so you move on, right? So you lay out those authorities for little things now, the dollar amount and all that stuff's gone higher. So I think it's time for the municipality to catch up. And then it doesn't matter who's in my chair, if they don't follow the procedures and the policies as laid out, then there's grounds for dismissal. Right? Because when I stepped in this chair, it was just a crapshoot. I think those of you that were on council remember the first thing I walked into when I walked into this job was the purchasing of the Dodge truck for the water utility guys, and there was no procurement. It was the finance officer telling the bylaw officer to phone around and try to find a truck. So there was no standards, there was no nothing, and then the truck was bought in Alberta, and the bylaw officer was going down to Alberta and drove the truck back full expenses, and it's just, it
Yeah.
screams red flags, right? So that's, you know, and I've straightened that out as best as I can, but now this document would really tighten things up, so it doesn't matter, like I say, if I'm in this chair or whoever, or my staff, they know what their authorities are and the steps they have to go through to purchase stuff. It just,
Don't we already have a policy now, though?
what's that?
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not,
That's
that's
that-
matching, it's not all matching.
Yeah.
We're not an alignment.
Yeah.
And it's
There's a lot
not
of-
the date.
Yeah, it's kind of dated.
So if you look at, sorry,
Because like we have a 5%, like, okay,
Yeah.
so we have a 5% local contractor thing in ours right now. I don't see that in.
It is in the
It's
other
in
one.
there.
It is?
Yeah.
I missed it then.
It's very well laid out. It talks about dollar purchases up to, I think, $50,000 or $100,000, and the percentages actually change because the dollar amounts get
Oh, and then,
so much different.
so and there was one part in here where it said 10%, 50%, 50%, but unless like all things are deficiencies are taken care of and things. Or am
So
I
they're gonna-
thinking about a different,
They're gonna,
so where would that 10% come out of the 250s
Well, those
deficiencies?
that's holdback money.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's money we hold back until the job is complete to satisfaction.
so what you're saying, Councilor Slager, that is that we do need to review ours and that we do need to create a new policy, right?
Harris, you know.
I'll make a motion that council direct administration to provide a revised procurement policy and CAO bylaw for the September 6th council meeting.
I'll second.
Thank you, Councilor Archer. Thank you, Councilor Burtis. Any more questions or comments? All in favor? I will just mention that that bylaw, the CAO bylaw signed by Terry Close and previous Mayor Justin Brown. We actually had a long discussion about that because of those trucks. And we set that because the spending limits were like, there was no spending limit. So we created that $20,000 mark because we just wanted to know what was being spent. But then it didn't match up to anything else. So it was kind of created out of thin air just because we were
Well,
concerned.
yeah, you just wanted to put a lid on it now.
Yeah, that's right. But things have changed. And this new procurement bylaw that you've read through the Dawson one is very well laid out, clear, and I think will work wonders for administration.
Gotcha, but there was spending limits before. It wasn't like the CAO couldn't just go and buy a backhoe for $250,000 brand new
Well, yeah, but
without council's approval.
it was very vague. Right? And to find that, we had to create the minimal so that we knew anything over that dollar amount we could be told about. Because there was spending that was happening that was, might not be a brand new dump truck, but there was, a Dodge truck, $60,000. That wasn't a capital item, wasn't nothing. So there was things like that needed to come to an end.
And even an example, the sign on the new digital sign on the Northern Light Center. That was a $10,000 purchase that I didn't know anything about. So we need clear definitions,
Yeah.
right?
For people to know, like.
Well, they need to know, and that way there's accountability, right? Like, if there's something they have to look at every time they want to do purchasing, then it's there, it's clear, it's transparent, and the guidelines are there, and if the local content's there, then there's no argument, right?
Yeah.
So,
Structure for the future.
yeah, the better man.
I like it.
Okay, moving on. Number 13 is the third and final reading of bylaw 2204, bylaw to provide grants. Any discussions about this?
May I ask, do we need a second motion for the policy change?
When it's presented,
I know, but were they not presented together?
they're gonna.
It's gonna be one document coming to you for the committee, of the whole meeting.
Okay, just because it's also here.
Yeah, it's all part of the first.
Okay, gotcha.
The third and final reading of bylaw. 2204.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for third and final reading of bylaw 2204, being a bylaw to provide for the grants for the nonprofits. The property taxes.
Thank you, Councillor Hancher, and thank you, Councillor Burtis. Any questions or comments?
No.
All in favor? Carried. All right, number 14 is the second reading of bylaw 2205, bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw 1507 as per our public hearing today.
I'll make a motion to second reading of bylaw 2205, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 1507, which was the Parhelion property.
Councillor Hancher,
I'll second that.
thank you, Councillor Paquette. Any more questions or comments? All in favor? Carried.
Aye.
Number 15, first and second reading of bylaw 2206, Councillor Code of Conduct.
Personally, like, we already have a code of conduct. I don't know why. People sitting across me, because you wouldn't even be able to have conversations with your husband about anything regarding the town stuff, whether it's pillow talk or not. Dale, Mr. Councilor Burtis, you might find yourself at odds with the pecuniary interest as far as the nature of your employment, given this council's makeup. Furthermore, the existing policy, I think, is working just fine. And, well, maybe there's hiccups, things, but I also noticed there's things from Farrell that we did take, that we didn't leave out. But if you guys really want to make a bylaw to sanction yourself, go right ahead.
I don't think that the Council of Pharaoh feels like they're sanctioning themselves. I think that having clear order and clear definitions of what their role is only going to strengthen their ability to lead. When we signed up for this job, it's stated a councillor code of conduct. It might not be as thorough as Pharaoh's was, but there's still understandings that we still have to uphold a level of leadership within the community. That doesn't mean
And that is addressed in our current one.
slightly.
So, but we're not giving ourselves like that to ourselves. Why would you do that?
Well, I think that this,
Be petty to each other?
no, I think that having clear, very concise directive and clear statements is only going to help us.
So that
You know,
people
there's no
know,
gray area.
so that it's very clear what is expected of every member, and that if though that isn't being upheld, that there is a protocol in place to,
Deal with the situation.
Deal with the situation.
I can play by rules. Those rules are established. And I'm just saying, like, I don't know why you would. That's all.
I don't see why you wouldn't. If you know that the rules are there and that you know that you
Shouldn't be an issue.
abide by them, then it shouldn't be an issue.
I don't know, maybe you come from an older time where a person's honor was like on their handshake, didn't need all these rules.
I think it speaks to accountability for all of us, right? And just
Mhm.
we have then a process in place that allows us to, if somebody were to come and say that one of us had done something wrong, it gives us also protection to protect us to go through a specific process.
Yeah,
To have that option for you to speak for yourself, to defend yourself, whereas right now, I don't feel that the other one did that. And so I think this is very similar to what YTG has in reality. And so it just gives everybody that benefit of the doubt and the option to have some sort of counsel for you to be able to defend yourself and have a bit of a hearing and respect to like, to the process. And that's what, to me, what it entails.
Well,
It's
council,
not, it's not a punitive thing specifically against anybody at the moment. It's just basically saying that, hey, we do have a process in place that protects you, and it also protects members of the community as well in respect to like what they see happening.
And just like our procurement policy for the future, you never know who we're gonna get, what we're gonna have to deal with, and it might not be this council, might not even be the next council, but these things in place, they just help uphold that level of leadership. And I think that it's only gonna strengthen the ability from people in these chairs.
I'm glad that Councilor Kent said that, because part of this bylaw here says to be having an open mind, being amenable, and you convinced me otherwise. I'm in favor of this now.
Okay,
And I think it's important for us to be looking at all of our policies, not just these ones in particular that we've addressed today, but to look at all of our policies and to make sure all of our policies are up to standard. And so I know within home care, we do them every 3 years. We review them, and I just think that it's important for us to, I mean, because some of these policies are like so very, very outdated that they do need to be, and if we start right here where we're at, like looking at, you know, the CEO and what his role and his job is, and our role and our job, I think that's a great place to start, and then we can work on other ones as well, so.
great. Thank
No,
you.
originally I looked at this and there's some parts of it that I was really okay with. But there's other things, I don't know, I just don't feel like, I just don't like the sanctions part really. Because it's just, I don't know, it just,
There should be some recourse for any individual who
See, I
is not
get-
adhering to the code of
I
conduct.
get that.
That's the
I get
bottom
that,
line.
But I mean, like, at what point though, it doesn't lay out, it just says like, we've got 17.2, you've got everything. Does it start at A and work itself down to I, or do you just skip right down to F because you feel like it?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't say anything about that.
But see, that's where discussion within the council can happen. And that's where it leaves, it's very clear, it's written out, it's laid out,
It doesn't say that though, does it?
but it doesn't have to.
But it doesn't, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, we're also,
But it didn't say any of
Have
this.
we amended that?
Thanks for having that
this
conversation.
is also on not the final document, right? So if you want to.
If you
wanna vote, it is.
Well, it's second, it's
Well-
first and second. So if you have comments that you'd like to add, or if you'd like
Add
to see
them.
something add to. the
Okay, I would like to have. If someone can help me wordsmith this. Or 17.2, council determines that a complaint made under this bylaw is valid, then council by resolution may impose one or more of the following sanctions against the offending members. So where's, where's the degree of wrongness? You know what I mean? Like.
Bob, how much, you're trying to say how much?
Like manslaughter.
How do we decide which one of
Yeah,
those
that's right.
gets dealt out?
It says it in the wording, though. Council may determine
Yeah.
or may impose one or more of. the
Yeah, but if you don't like somebody, you're gonna go to the harshest punishment.
But it's a teamwork.
No, but
Like, it's just.
It's a team.
It's not, it's like us having the same conversation. So we can. How much do you want to divulge and get into this one topic right now? Because I think that any council, when they agree to be a counselor, is willing to work within a team and has to understand the difference of opinions. And whether or not they treat it the same, they're all going to work together to accomplish the same goal, which is the betterment of the community. And if there's a problem, they can discuss it internally and decide what that needs to be. If
Like what
something,
punishment it would be,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Because I could say it would be verbal, but somebody else could say, well, no, I think it would do this, and then you discuss it and. someone
exactly,
else-
it's not going to be one person on another, and it's going to be, it's a team effort. It's not going to be everybody against one person. It's never going to be like that because we're a team. And the next council will be a team, and the council after that will be a team. And also admin can weigh in on the severity of it. If it causes a job loss, if it causes cost, if it causes, there's so many different things that could fall into it that,
Well, your worship, yeah, it depends on the severity of what it is. If it's somebody talking, if it's a member of council talking badly to a staff member, that's one thing. But if it's a member of council that causes the municipality a contract or a loss of, maybe it's $100,000, so that's treated totally different than somebody swearing or not.
And I agree, it should be, but it doesn't spell it out, is what I'm saying, though, Ken.
Yeah, but I think when you read it, it talks about that it is it's almost like a hearing in between councils.
Yeah.
Council takes the information, weighs it, and then has a discussion as to how it's dealt with. This would be no different than in the legislature, right? If there's a list of sanctions that could be, but until the disciplinary people meet to discuss the severity of it, how can you state it's gonna start at this and work to this, right?
And previously in the document, it talks about how things are gonna be taken care of, and I feel like that part there is like, it could be this, it could be that, it could be the next thing. But previously in the document, it talks about your process, right? And so within some of that process, there is some of that that's talked about.
And yeah, and it's no different than going to court, right? You have your minimums and your maximums, and then it's up to the judge and jury to decide where it fits in there. This personally doesn't affect me, it's council,
Yeah.
so.
The council of whatever time it's
Yeah,
gonna be,
exactly, right?
you know,
And the previous bylaw, as you know, was
big,
very,
outdated.
very big and there's not even a date, it was never even signed.
Well, even number 19, sorry, Lachlan, but, this bylaw should be reviewed at the beginning of each term, council. So each council will look at this document and reread these things and understand that these are the rules and regulations and understand that, and maybe they'll discuss 17.2 and be like, okay, well, let's just maybe throw this out there, and maybe we want to take a couple of these off the list, whatever. But I do believe it's a well-written document. I think that the town of Watson Lake will benefit from having it. So,
There are things that I like a lot about it too.
Yep.
You know, there's things in here. Such as, members shall feel confident to respectfully express their views in any open sessions, in camera, conference sessions, workshop sessions, without fear of interruption, or shall feel confident in the chair's impartiality and controlling the meeting and stuff like that. So I'm totally okay with things like that. Because sometimes it takes me a little long time, like a while to get my story out. And you have to like kind of follow along, put the pieces together as you're going through it. Get that? I'm gonna love this.
okay. Okay, great.
So like I say, I'm, there's some things I like about it and there's some things I don't. I just don't feel, I don't know, I just don't like. I don't know. There's things about it that it's the sanction. I feel like we're better than that, but I guess not, so. We need like rules.
Yes.
Mind your business and you'll be fine. Just mind your business.
What, I can,
Right?
I'm not minding my business.
Okay, let's go from here. Okay, listen,
Hey,
so,
rules,
so,
expressing, feel free to,
okay,
a speech.
we were going to do the first and second reading.
I'll make a motion to approve first and second reading of bylaw 2206, being a bylaw
Councilor,
for the counselor code of conduct.
I will second that. Thank you, Councilor Hanchar. Thanks, Councilor Burtis. Any more questions or comments?
No.
Not for me,
All
thank
in
you.
favor? Carried. There's plenty of time to add input into this. So let's work on it. Things you don't like, please provide feedback and let's make it so it's the best that it can be. So we'll have maybe we'll do third reading and then we'll do fine, like we can split them up. So we can do third reading with comments in the next meeting. We'll do the final reading following meeting. So there's a chance to add to the bylaw if need be. So,
Sure.
okay,
Your worship, it's only on for first reading.
said first and second.
That's first and second on the agenda.
Oh, sorry, on the bylaw itself, it says for first readings.
So
Sorry.
you'll have to amend your motion.
It's up to you. The reason we put it on was just for first reading, and I'm sorry, it's an oversight, but was because then you guys have time to chime in on it, do the whole meeting.
We can still do that on third reading,
On third
so
reading.
Okay,
we'll leave your motion as is.
okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
Thank you, everybody. Moving right along. No new and unfinished business. So we'll move on to counselor open forum.
I was wondering about, okay, so we got that water tester to tell us if we got leaks. So how's that working?
We're good. We discovered, during the training session, we discovered 2 leaks that we didn't know about, so they're on our schedule for digs. We've ran into issues with the local company that supplies the hydrovac. We've been waiting on digs now coming up over 3 weeks, almost a month, and they haven't supplied the truck for us. So, yeah, so we're trying to, we've got a whole bunch in the queue to dig. So that's hopefully gonna be looked after here shortly.
And was the water so much that that was causing our, like the ones that you leaks you found?
Well, we don't know how much volume, we just know there's a leak there.
Oh, okay.
Do you have the equipment yet? Sorry.
The water.
Yeah, is that, sorry.
Yeah, she did, yeah, and the staff, the trainer was here out of the States and the company out of Alberta and did the testing for the group.
How do they know where to look to, if you found 2 you didn't know you had, how did you know to look there?
It's based on this equipment and it attaches to the water lines and it senses water flow. I wasn't here when the training went on. But the staff said it worked phenomenal and it's actually kind of neat because the leaks that were discovered, the one on Campbell, our staff thought that the leak was on Campbell Way, and this actually pinpointed the leak to be on the Sutton. So, yeah, it was just, those things are, and there was, I can't remember the location of the other leak that they found, but that was just during their training days. So we've been busy with other stuff, so the staff haven't got out, well, we need to fix these ones, so we can move on to the next ones. So yeah, so the utilities and operations have been working on a plan on how they're gonna address going forward, but we need to fix the leaks that we know we have first and then move on.
How many staff did we train?
I want to say there was 4, maybe 5 on the training. For sure there was
Let's see,
5.
like pretty much all the water treatment guys?
Well, the 2 water treatment,
Yeah.
utilities guys. Glenn was there from operations to get the point of view. And then there was staff from public works as well.
Okay, no, that's good.
Yeah, anytime we have training, we train.
And do you, so just say like all of a sudden you don't have any staff, like they train other staff, like say if you get somebody new in,
Well, yeah, so
that's what I mean.
yeah, our guys will, now that they've been trained,
Yeah.
they can show our other.
Yeah,
staff.
okay, no, yep, good. Okay.
Open house for the fire hall there.
I would still love to have a fire chief so I can put the hall together before we try to show it
You're
off.
waiting for that still, okay. I'll be waiting for something with that.
Well, and that's something I missed in my report was we're still having issues with deficiencies over there. The sewer issues, Johnson Builders had their subcontractor come back and dig up the water line and attempt to fix it. And so they left town back to Alberta. The engineer came in and with Stan videoed it and came up with a whole list of other deficiencies. So YG Legal went back and infrastructure went back to Johnson Builders. We had a big meeting about it. Now Johnson Builders have had to hire a new subcontractor to come in and fix the deficiencies out of their pocket, but we put the requirement that the new subcontractors had to be approved by YG and us. And they did hire Arctic Backhoe, and I have faith in Arctic Backhoe and the quality of the work they did. So they're all scheduled to be here the week of the 22nd to redig the sewer line, camera flush, and then fix all the other issues with the civil side. And at the same time, there's Bud's overhead doors supposed to be back to fix a bunch of warranty issues and deficiencies. Our crate's supposed to be back, so they're really being pushed, and Johnson Builders, they're losing money because they're holding back deep service sewer guy with only 5,000 on their side and them hiring Arctic backhoe to come down here, they're gonna be hemorrhage money, but it should have been done right.
Is it backing up? Is that what it's doing?
Yeah. And it doesn't back into the building, but it backs up into the manholes and doesn't flush and doesn't drain. So, yeah, huge issues there, so hopefully we'll get that.
Be nice to do that before winter.
Oh, truthfully, I'd like to say October, here's the date we're having the open house. Because these guys have to be done before September. So hopefully I can have the fire chief come in and get things cleaned up and then we can go.
Is everything moved over to the firehouse?
Not quite yet either, because I haven't had somebody to be able to sort through it.
Right.
I'm trying to do stuff on my own time and it's just not working.
Anything else? Okay. Counselor Burtis,
I'm kicking, thank you.
thank you for attending the parade this weekend.
You're welcome, sir.
Last meeting, we had an admin report regarding the disposal of those 60 drums of glycol or whatever, and that was supposed to be discussed at this meeting. I was wondering what happened with that.
Yeah, it got pulled because of the fact that I found the money internally to deal with that. So we don't need to move money from the environmental reserve.
Okay,
Is it bad glycol?
Oh, it's glycol that came out of the district heating system. So it's
Oh, it's used.
It's used.
Okay.
So, yeah, so we've been dealing with a couple of different companies. There is another, like, we had three quotes originally, and that was for disposal. But right now we're reaching out to an actual glycol.
Recycler.
Yeah, like they manufacture glycol. They clean it and resell it and strengthen it. So we're looking at that avenue to see if we can put some bang back into our pocket instead of hemorrhaging money. So, but I found enough money in the budget that I don't need to move money from environmental. And the nice part is it's in my spending authority. So, and within the towns, as long as I comply with the town's purchasing budget on local authorities. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
My other question is, do we have an update on the in-ground infrastructure project?
yes.
Just given that it's fall.
So
Beautiful out there.
So the original tender was supposed to close on the 8th. There was a glitch with the YG tendering system, and there was two submissions. But I can't remember what.
And this is
they said.
just for the Tintina portion,
Yeah,
right?
just Tintina, and it closes again on the 18th, but they believe that both bids are going to be compliant and will move forward as of the.
How long is that job supposed to take though? Like it's.
Yeah, like,
It's not a long-
so,
No, okay, that's all. It's just concerning just because it is.
No,
so
no,
once they award the like, I don't know if you know this or whatever, but once they award the contract, do they like start like immediately or like?
it depends on the company and what their work schedule is, but they all know that it's work that has to be done before freeze up. And that's why they're bidding it.
Okay,
That's why probably only two companies bid it because of
Whatever their
Time frame,
they're
right?
committed to, right?
yeah, okay. Thank you.
So we got some. We have the $20 a month surcharge, the garbage tax, as people call it. Or the garbage, the $20 a month anyway, for garbage pickup. So. If you have a building that we know is like not being lived in at all, the water's turned off, there's no power to it. Yet if there's residents on there, we still charge them $20 a month. Garbage, no matter what. Shouldn't we have like the foresight or the ability to put a pause? Because if we're not collecting garbage from there, we know, like say the retirement residents, no one's lived there for every day, or the Stewart residents on was it Highland here? The one that burnt anyway. No one's lived there for the last 3 years. Yet we still charge $20 a month garbage. There's no water, there's no sewer. We know nobody's living there. Yet we still charge $20 a month for garbage pickup when it's not, if we're charging for a service that isn't taking place. Don't you think that's a little wrong?
What would you like to do about it?
Just,
What's your-
well, if my fix for this situation would be if somebody isn't paying water and sewer, and we know for a fact, like, we're a small town, we know if someone's living there or not. That we don't charge the $20 per month garbage pickup when we're charging.
Are we
for
doing
sewer.
that?
We do charge for it. If there's a residence on the property, we charge the $240 on the, so I'm saying that to prove whether or not someone's in there or not, maybe we have like, if your water's turned on, well, maybe your water's turned on because people are producing garbage there, but like, we know who's there, and who isn't, so could we maybe,
Could we ask admin to look into the issue of charging the garbage tax to empty homes?
yes,
So I guess the issue will be then reviewing the solid waste bylaw again.
Because it probably states that.
it does state in there, that's the thing, but we should be able to have the common sense foresight to be like, this is not right.
Yes, and to go along with that, fees and charges bylaw is slated for your review again, and it will be on the agenda for September 6th.
Mhm.
And that's where all those rates are included.
Perfect, can we make sure that's included?
Well, it's on the list.
Okay,
The fees and charges.
Fees and charges bylaw is on the list for September 6th.
Thank you, Councillor Slager.
solar panels, I heard about this before, but can we just, on the water treatment plant, did that die, or what was the reason why we could get hold of that guy?
The engineers and everybody just disappeared into the wind.
So it was the flavor of the day and now it's no longer tasty?
Yeah, I haven't had a phone call from Solvest in almost a year.
Alright, last thing, the JES swamp, which is, I know we've had a lot of water this year. But somebody said, wasn't there a culvert that used to like drain that out into somewhere else? That culvert is
8th
plugged.
Street. Goes across 8th Street, right by Parhelion. And
Yeah, so we've been looking at it. The deal is that we couldn't go in there and knock the willows down because it was in migratory bird season. So we couldn't do anything. So last week, the guys were in and actually started cutting willows and seeing if we can get in there to do anything. It's sort of a slippery slope, to put it in a bad way. The fact is that we are regulated on the amount of water we release from different areas in the community under a water license. So if we release a whole bunch of water that drains all the way across, that puts the water levels up in Y Lake, that we have to drain into second Y Lake, then that affects our water license. So we're doing this dance on seeing what we can do. And we have to see how far, once the guys get the willows knocked down, the water in those swamps has really dropped off lately. But because before you could see water clear as day when you drove, and now you can't. So, and then if we have to trench or dredge a ditch or whatever in there, it all depends on the thing. So we've been dealing with that for the last month.
Gotcha.
So
I feel like the water table throughout town is high.
it is, we, over at the municipal services building, when the guys were in digging the sewer, they dug down 6 feet and we had groundwater in 2 different holes. So water level, when everybody drove by Delisa's lots, or there's just clear cut and you see the water laying there, that's not water that's draining from anywhere else, that's groundwater.
Is it on bedrock around there?
Yeah.
Didn't we have a bunch of culverts there? Once upon a time that would take it down towards like Wild Lake?
Well, not from, it always laid in those lots because they were undeveloped. They were the low spot.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So anyways,
Yeah.
we've, that area there, we're dealing with riprap and stuff, but we've been dealing for this for a month. But we've been, under the Migratory Bird Act, we couldn't do any clearing in there. Unless we hired a consulting firm to come down from Whitehorse to confirm that there was no bird nests.
Seems excessive.
Understood. Okay, I'm happy.
Okay, everybody had their chance. I have one comment question. For admin. With the Northern Light Center being at the state that it's at and staffing situation, I was wondering if maybe a chance for the locals to have a look. Re-invite them into a free viewing and see what everything it is, and when it's back in full operation. And at the same time, ask them to sign up for social media info and get their information for
So-
youth and for seniors and for et cetera.
I would, it's something that we've been talking about internally, but we would like to have like a big community open house there.
Yep.
You know, so maybe in the winter, if there's special events going on, we'll try to put stuff on as a one-offs as well
Okay.
on the dome, now that it's working. But it would be nice to have a community open house that tie in to maybe the same time as that we have the municipal services building opening, so we can try and draw people out.
Okay.
And as part of the other thing that we're working on for was free passes for like the visitor information staff, so they can vlog, you know, the pros of the show and stuff.
Okay.
But I would really like next spring before we open is to go around to all the businesses and invite all the cashiers, all of the front counter people, all that type of staff in town that deal with the traveling public and the public at large, and invite them over to a wine and cheese thing at the Northern Lights Center so they can see the new projection system and the show, so they can
Pump it up to-
So
yeah.
somebody comes into town, hey, what can we do in Watson Lake? Well, I was just at the Northern Lights Center and you should see that show. And really try to build up that selling point, right? And I'm sure we can access money under tourism to sponsor
Oh, yeah.
those type of things. So why not pump up our own tires and
Okay.
make a roll? So those are things that we're working on.
Okay, great. I'm glad that it's on your radar. Happy that it's up and running. I think it's amazing for our community. I've heard lots of comments from tourists actually that have been there and enjoyed the video, so I want it to succeed. I mentioned to you earlier today, BC is implementing an empty home tax. So anybody that is not currently residing in their house for a certain period of time, under this crunch that we're in for housing, if there's empty homes that are being unutilized, I think we should,
On housing.
you know, might be on housing, but it might be locals that are seasonal or locals that don't actually use their homes. Wouldn't mind endeavoring to see what that might look like. I don't necessarily want to do it, but you know, we are in a housing crunch. We're losing staff, as you're well aware of. And we need to utilize every home in the community as best we can. So if that's something we can look into, that would be great.
I like that.
One more tax.
Yeah, because that's what we need.
Don't necessarily want to implement it. Wonder what it was. Curious.
That might, your worship, that might be something that would be a topic for AYC at their, one of their upcoming meetings, because maybe it's a territorial item to address.
Fair enough. Okay. Leave it there. All right, we are in a committee of the whole, so we have to go to the gallery open forum. Dana, do you have any comments or questions?
I do not. Thanks.
Thank you. NLC. Do you have any questions or comments? I'll take that as a no. Patty, do you have any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. One is about the street responsibility in front of, it's on Frank Trail, I guess it is. Has there been any movement on that to determine who's going to be responsible for maintaining the frontages?
So, your worship, that matter has been bounced around quite a bit. I had a meeting with Department of Highways, a bunch of various departments from Department of Highways. And I held ground that it is their right of way, and they were very clear in their correspondence with us that the responsibility is not ours, it's snow removal is ours, and the rest of it is their right of way, and if we want to do anything, it requires permitting. So I know that one business in town did write a letter to the minister complaining, and Department of Highways proceeded to fill the potholes in front of that business and the hotel next door. But they did not do any of the other right-of-way issues in the community, but highways themselves are coming down, I believe, the week of September 19th. and to meet with my staff to go over issues in the right of way. Along with ditching and all of those issues, stop signs that get run over that aren't our mandate, but we put them up because we don't want somebody to get killed at the intersection in front of the grocery store type of thing. So we've reached out to them and they're gonna work on that, but being that they've sort of set precedent by actually having the work done in front of those two hotels, that showing that it is their right of way. Okay, does that answer your question, Patty?
Excellent, good news. Thanks. The only other question I have is about lot development and whether or not there's been any movement to put lots out for sale that you're aware of.
So I can tell you that 2 lots were taken back on Francis Avenue and they're going back on the market. They're in the process of taking the 3rd lot back on Francis Avenue that wasn't developed as per their development agreement. So there'd be 3 lots there. The new lots on Francis Avenue, I've been told that there is progress being made at the negotiation table with Liard First Nation. And that's all they'll release at the moment. I see Chief Charlie had put out correspondence to the Liard First Nation members that there's going to be a public meeting in town with the negotiating board, and all the LFN members were invited to attend, but there was no date attached to that. And I reached out to YG and said, oh, it's nice to see that the chief's inviting anybody. Is anybody else being invited to the meeting? And YG didn't know anything about the conversation or knowledge of a meeting that he was going to take everybody to talk about the negotiations and lot development. So that's where we've been told that they won't release more information on that, other than the fact that negotiations are proceeding and they hope to have a resolution soon.
Okay, but they didn't define soon, like 20 years from now?
Possibly.
Sorry, I'm being a little bit sarcastic there. Okay, that's good to me. Thanks.
Thank you, Patty. All right,
One last thing. Streetlights. Have you heard anything? We're supposed to get them?
Yeah, so that was announced, I guess, at the beginning, you weren't here. The streetlights, because we chimed in, it said we pay for our 3rd.
No, not those, the other ones from 2 Mile.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, because we said we would pay for a 1/3 of the first kilometer that they weren't going to do. Council approved that. And then I supported a letter or an application, funding application that Yukon government did to the feds. And for 1.4, $1.2 million, they applied, highways applied to the feds, but they had to use us as the gateway to get that access. So MP Hanley phoned me to congratulate me on us receiving the money for the lighting to kilometer 4. And so right now it is at ATCO for surveying and final development costs. We're not going to see any lights installed this year, as far as I know, because ATCO's schedule is a year in advance for that scope of work. But the funding has been approved, and that'll knock our contribution down to tens of thousands of dollars, if any, going forward.
Gotcha, I was under the, yeah, I knew about the money going in, didn't know where it was standing though.
Yeah, so it's at engineering with ATCO, and unfortunately, that's the holdup, because there's so many big projects on the go right now that their crew, they're booking into next year right now.
okay. So, thank you, everybody. It's been a long meeting. A little bit of housekeeping. September will recommence regular scheduled council meetings. We don't have any, we have a meeting with Hanley on September 1st,
6 p.m.
It's Thursday.
September 1st, what week is that?
It's Thursday.
6 p.m.?
Yep.
Thank you.
And then we also have to discuss town hall meeting. Suggesting October. Not the first week, maybe the second week. I'm gonna throw that out there now, so that we can nail down a date. So we're thinking maybe the 11th. for that, which is, we have a scheduled meeting for October 4th. 11th would be town hall meeting, 18th would be another scheduled meeting.
When the next meeting, sorry, in 2 weeks, correct?
September,
The 11th is the day after a stat, just to keep in mind, not that maybe that doesn't make a difference, but it's technically Monday.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna throw that date out there. We don't have to confirm it today, but I'll
Okay.
leave it as tentative. Okay? And that will be zoning bylaw, cemetery bylaw. There's one more.
The town hall and.
Yeah. Okay, we haven't had a real good, well-attended town hall meeting for a while, so hopefully we can hype that one. Make it well-attended and have some good input on the cemetery bylaw, which has been out to getting some work done on it. So we'll have a revised copy of that soon. And our next scheduled meeting, Danina, is the 6th of September.
Okay, perfect.
Yes, and then your worship on the meeting on the 18th, your regular meeting on the 18th, the delegation will be Yukon Housing, speaking about the housing, her first housing first.
Yep.
Term is for the Lakeview property. They're gonna present on that.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. We have no in camera, so
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
thank you, Councillor Hanchar and Councillor Burtis. All in favor? Carried.
Night, everybody.
Good night, thank you.